So I'm reading Job, and I started reading Job because I had, like, started to realize that when I was going through bad things, I wasn't going to God like I'm supposed to. I wasn't remembering the things He's already done for me. I was straight up going to anxiety and fear and anger, and which my anger came from fear. My anger came from not knowing. My anger came from not having, the real ability to give things to God, right? And so I decided that knowing Job went through a lot, but never having read Job myself, I was going to go through Job, and I read 1 through 4. But I noticed in 3, I have a King James version, but sometimes I Google it, bring it up on my phone because it's easier to hold my phone than it is to hold a Bible. Makes me sound lazy, but my version in my Bible says, "Let them curse it that curse the day, who are ready to raise up their mourning." Speed limit's 5 miles per hour, man. And children play on that street. They shouldn't, but they do. Sorry, I live in a trailer court. Speed limit's 5 miles per hour for the lane, and people come flying and zooming. New International Version. May those who curse that day, those who are ready to rouse Leviathan. So I wrote them down here. To me, the first one, this one makes more sense in context, because in that particular verse, he's cursing the day that he was born. And to me, if you're cursing a day, you're going to mourn what's lost because of that curse. It makes more sense. If you're cursing the day you're born and it actually works and bad things happen and you would mourn that day. I don't know why I'm itchy, probably because I've never actually worn this shirt. But ain't it cute? Anyways. It looks like it's gonna rain, and I really hope it doesn't, because if it does, I'm going to have to drag this back in the house. It's a Papa-san chair, and it sits in my kitchen, and I never use it. But I figured I'd bring it outside and sit on it, because it's comfy. But yeah, I looked up why they're different, and it claims there's different translations and new understandings, but I'm like, Leviathan is like a creature, right? Why would there be a mention of Leviathan and no emphasis on... Because usually when, there's creatures mentioned in the Bible, right? There's no doubt about it. They were mentioned for a fact, for one. For two, there's other mentions of Leviathan in the Bible, right? And it was always Leviathan. It was never something else. And not only that, usually there's and it came out and it did this and did that, it caused destruction, it did this, it did that. So if we're mentioning Leviathan, there's no verse that's follow-up to what it was doing. So I'm going to say that it's mourning, because that makes more sense to me in the context. But now we're going to go on and we're going to read Job 5, because, yeah. I'm actually going to fold this differently so that I can, use it as a bookmark. Because I had a bookmark, but... I had a bookmark. And it's a bookmark... Oh, there it is. There it is. I've had this bookmark for so long. Already read that, ma'am. But yeah, we're going to read probably 5 and 6. Because Job is a very long book. Probably not as long as some books in the Bible, but... I also plan on going to the store to get a new Scrub Daddy and get some Dawn and maybe grab a few other odds and ends. What prompted me to realize is that anytime I get mad at work, or I had interviews the other day, and one seemed to go well, but still no callback. It's me. I'm not that surprised. The other one, the tour of the facility that I had an interview at, went really well. The actual interview, I felt as though I was sitting across from two people that were looking down at me and making me feel like I was inferior, and that it had nothing to really do with how I would actually be as an employee, but what their first impressions of me was as a person. And I'm not there to be your friend, I'm there to work, so you should not be judging me as a person, you should be judging me as what kind of employee I would be. So, that's... And I got really upset about that. And the reason is because I just don't... I don't do well at job interviews. I have a job, so, it's not as if I'm not a good worker, it's just I don't do well at interviews. But we're going to read Job 5 and Job 6. Call now if there be any that will answer thee, and to which of the saints wilt thou turn? For wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. I have seen the foolish taking root, but suddenly I cursed his habitation. His children are far from safety, and they are crushed in the gate. Neither is there any to deliver them. Those who harvest the hungry, whose harvest the hungry eateth up, and taketh it even out of the thorns, and the robber swalloweth up their substance. Although affliction cometh not forth of the dust, neither doth trouble spring out of the ground. Yet man is born into trouble as the sparks fly upward. I would seek unto God, and unto God would I commit my cause, which doeth great things, and unsearchable, marvelous things without number, who giveth rain upon the earth, and sendeth waters upon the fields, to set up on high those that be low, that those which mourn may be exalted to safety. I love that it says, which doeth great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. If we really stopped and thought about, can we quit doing that to me? Thank you. I'm trying to read here. Thank you. If we really stopped and, there's little things that God does on earth and for us that we completely and totally take for granted. It mentions rain and stuff like that. But personal examples for me would be waking me up every day. The times that I could have died driving, I'm gonna be honest, and sometimes it's because I'm driving recklessly or carelessly, or I just don't look, but sometimes it's because just things happen while you're driving and you're looking. Safety in times of danger, loss, or when I put myself in bad situations. Because if you really stop to pay attention, you notice that God really is watching over us, and He does keep us out of situations, even situations that a lot of the times our decisions put us into. I think that's a honeybee, but I really don't know, so I don't like it flying right at my face like that. 12. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So not only that, he disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So, like, whatever plans and stuff that evil people have come up with against you or I, he stops them. Even if we can't see it, even if we don't think that he is, even if we think that, you know, see, I wanted to read the Bible outside, and I still do, but I'm very easily distracted. But yes, he does stop people's plans. He does put a halt to it because he is protecting us. And we sometimes don't realize it because we didn't even realize that somebody had these plans or these evil things or these bad things they were going to try and do to us. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope in the noonday as in the night. But he saveth the poor from the sword, from their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty. So the poor hath hope, and iniquity stoppeth her mouth. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. And therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. So I'm getting a lot from this. So Job 5:17, it says, behold, happy is the man who God correcteth. We should be happy when God corrects and chastises us. I didn't spell chastise correctly at all. I don't think anyway. Because that means he loves us enough which he loves us all, right? Even if some people choose to not acknowledge him or talk to him or have a relationship with him. He loves all of us because we're all his children, but he loves us enough to save us from ourselves. And that's exactly what Jesus did on the cross. Our sins, our decisions to sin, is our downfall. And so many things in the Bible that people would think, well, that has nothing to do with the moment Jesus was on the cross, but it does, because everything does. But yes, he loves us enough to save us from ourselves. For he maketh sore and bindeth up, he woundeth, and his hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. So, he shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. So does that mean he'll deliver us from 6 troubles, but the 7th one won't happen? Because the trouble would be the evil touching you, right? I could be interpreting that wrong. I'm only human after all. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. So even if there's no resources, and you think you have nothing, and there's no way you're going to feed yourself or your family, God will provide. Once again. And in war from the power of the sword. He will save you, so long as you follow his commandments and keep his laws. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. So being safe from people's words, because their words can't do anything when you have the word of God in your heart. And don't be afraid of destruction when it comes, because sin can be destruction, right? You have God, that's your armor against sin, that's your armor against destruction ultimately. And no, I'm not perfect. I'm not preaching at anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody feel less than. But this is just what I'm getting from this. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beast of the earth. For thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. So, the beasts of the earth, the evil things of the earth, we're not even to worry about them, because we have Jesus, we have God. We're supposed to be with the ones of the field that are taken care of, because if you think about it, if it's in the earth, it's out on its own, but the beasts in the field, meaning like the animals that are in the field, they're in a field, they're kept, they're like taken care of, right? So they're safe, they're taken care of, they're fed, they have what they need in the field, and they don't have to worry about what's in the world. Neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth, for thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. Also, a lot of animals that are farm animals are really big animals, right? And they're really, like, durable animals, like horses and cows. And I know that someone would bring up, but if a horse breaks its leg, it's pretty much done for. But, like, it's a big animal. And it says as the stones of the field. Stones are hard to move, stones are hard to damage, so you're going to have protection, is what I'm also getting from this. Shall be at peace and have protection, is what I'm getting from this. And thou shalt know that thy tabernacle is an ant. And thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace, and thou shalt visit thy habitation, and shalt not sin. So, the tabernacle was like the place where they worshipped, from my understanding. It would be in peace, and you would visit that habitation, and you wouldn't sin. Basic instructions. Thou shalt know also that thy seed shall be great, and thine offspring as the grass of the earth. Thou shalt come to thy grave in a full age, like as a shock of corn cometh in his season. Lo, this, we have searched it, so it is, hear it, and know thou it for thy good. I don't have to explain that it's talking about, like, the things you produce in life. It could be talking about literal children, and literal, like, because this is Job, and, but, lo, this, we have searched it, so it is. Hear it, and know that thou it for thy good. So this is, I'm assuming God saying this to Job, I'm assuming, but yeah, it is, because the next chapter is, but Job answered and said, my handwriting is so weird right now. But Job answered and said, oh, that my grief were thoroughly. I think it's supposed to be thoroughly, but it says throughly. Throughly. Thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are swallowed up. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. The poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. Doth the wild ass, donkey, bray when he hath grass? or loweth the ox over his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? The things that my soul refused to touch are as my sorrowful meat. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for, even that it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Then should I yet have comfort. Yea, I would harden myself in sorrow, let him not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. What is my strength? What is my strength that should hope, that I should hope? And what is mine end, that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? Is it my help in me? Is not my help in me, and is wisdom driven quite from me? To him that is afflicted, pity should be shewed from his friend, but he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. My brethren have dealt deceitfully as a brook, and as the stream of brooks they pass away, which are blackish by reason of the ice, and wherein the snow is hid. What time they wax warm, they vanish when it is hot. They are consumed out of their place. The paths of their way are turned aside. They go to nothing, and perish. The troops of Tema, Tema, looked, the companies of Sheba waited for them. I'm going to say Tema, because Sheba, they were confounded because they had hoped. They came thither and were ashamed. For now ye are no thing, ye see my casting down and are afraid. Did I say, bring unto me, or give a reward for me of your substance, or deliver me from the enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the Almighty? Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. How forcible are right words, but what doth your arguing reprove? Do ye imagine to reprove words in the speeches of one that is desperate, which are as wind? Yea, ye overwhelm the fatherless, and ye dig a pit for your friend. Now therefore be content, look upon me, for it is evident unto you if I lie. Return, I pray you, let it not be iniquity. Yea, return again, my righteousness is in it. Is there iniquity in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern perverse things? So it sounds as though he's describing all these things that are happening, and he's saying, like, why are they happening? I could be wrong. Like, what was the reason? Because in the beginning of Job, it talks about how he has all these animals, and he has a family, and all that stuff is taken from him because the devil comes to God and, tells him, like, oh, he's not going to praise you if I do this and I do this to him, It seems as though he feels like this has all happened because of something that he has failed to notice or not picked up on. And that's why he asks, is there iniquity in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern perverse things? And again, that's what I'm getting from it, but I wonder if I'm right all the time. But I think that's why this is another example of the many times that the Bible says, lean on, I'm assuming it says it a lot of times, but I know it says at least once to not lean on your own understanding. Because he's even asking God, like, do I not know the difference between something good and bad, basically? Because there's so many things in life that we do something and we have good intentions and we try and we wonder why it's not going the way that we want it to. But if we would have just asked God, am I supposed to do this, before we did it, he would have told us no. Because it doesn't always have to be something bad, right? Like, people talk about it being in the will of God, and I think when people hear that, and I know this doesn't relate to those kinds of things, because what happened to Job was the devil, like, destroying his things and taking things, trying to prove that he would not, would stop believing and stop praising God, right? But we have something, and even if it's something that isn't unholy, it's not evil, it's not perverse, it's not bad, it's not a sin, but it's not something that we ourselves are supposed to have in our lives. It's not something we're supposed to do. It's not something we are destined for, right? And we think that because it's not evil, it's not bad, it's not a sin, it's not something that goes against our faith, it's not something that goes against the Bible, that it's okay for us to do it and that God's going to bless it. But it's not that he doesn't bless it, it's that it's not the path we're supposed to be on. And, sometimes it is directly something that we should know we're not supposed to be doing. But it's confusing whenever people talk about it being in the will of God, because they assume that as long as it's not a sin, as long as it's not, lying or stealing or cheating or coveting or something like that, that it's okay to do it because it doesn't go against God's laws or anything. But in the same vein, we're not, a lot of the times as people, going to God and being like, should I be doing this? Should I pursue this job? Should I go to this place? Should I move? Should I date this person? Should I, And I think that's why a lot of grief and a lot of bad things happen. And it's not me saying that God's punishing us. It's not him punishing us. It is simply us not going to him and saying, hey, should I be going and getting employed at this place? Should I be getting this car? Should I be getting this animal as a pet? And then, turns out we shouldn't have, because that animal you got for a pet is extremely sickly and you can't afford the vet bills, or that SUV you bought that you thought you needed because it has enough seats for your family and enough, now it has a bunch of recalls or something like that, right? And if we would have just asked God, he would have given us the answer, like, oh, no, but here's why. Because it's never just, like people want to sit there and talk about how the Bible is just to control us, right? But the things that it says in the Bible are not just because God wants to look at us and say, no, bad. It's because he wants us to have the best life that he made for us. The best life that he envisioned for us. And if we listen to him more, and I'm not perfect. I do things that I'm not supposed to do. I don't always use my better judgment. But if we listen to him more and relied on our own thinking and understanding less, we would have better lives. We'd have more prosperous lives. And how many times have you relied on your own understanding thinking, I can figure this out, this will be fine, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse until you finally pray and you're like, God, why won't this work out? Why won't this happen? Why is this going so bad? I'm trying to do the right thing. This seems like the right thing. It doesn't go against anything. And, and then you get this, wave of, tears and this moment of breakdown, and you realize that God's telling you, stop worrying. And I'm getting a little bit emotional, talking about it, but it's God telling you, stop worrying, I got this. You don't have to worry. You don't have to lean on yourself. And me getting mad in situations when little things happen, or worrying when it's something that is actually completely out of my control, instead of going to God and being like, I'm giving it to you. Yeah, that's one of my issues. And even when I say I'm giving it to you, then I still worry about it, because I'm I'm working on that. It's one of my biggest issues, and I've talked about it, I think, in TikTok videos. I've talked about it in other YouTube videos. And that's what made me kind of decide to read Job, because I knew Job went through a lot. And I knew that there had to be something within these pages of Job that, and maybe the whole thing, because I do plan on reading the whole thing slowly, but I'm not going to read all of it in YouTube videos, because that'll take a while. But I do want to read and understand all the things that Job went through, because I feel as though we face a lot of struggles in life, and people don't like to read or mention the chapters of the Bible that talk about struggles and what happens and what it really is. People don't like talking about things like the book of Job, because they don't like the idea that the devil is going to come and take things from you. They don't like the idea that the devil is going to come into your life and destroy, deceive. They want to just think it's happenstance. They want to think that, they don't want to believe that the devil's doing it, because if they believe the devil's doing it, they can't get mad at God, abandon the concept of God, and then go do whatever they want. But if you believe in God until things get difficult, and then you start to say, well, why would God let this happen, and why would God let that happen? And it's not that God let it happen. I mean, in a way, in this instance, it is because, the devil was like, hey, I bet if I do this, Jesus, he won't praise you anymore. He won't believe in you anymore. But Job still very clearly believes in God, because he's talking to God. And the thing about it is, when you have a lot and you're going through a really good time, sometimes we also forget the bad times when we're in a good place. So that when something bad happens, we panic, we freak out, we're like, oh my God, why is this happening? And that's also not a good way to be. We have to remember God in all things, because God really is there in all things. He's there whether you're going through something bad, something good. And people do look at the world around us right now and think it's hard to imagine that God is still there, but he is. And what people don't like to admit is that, yes, the devil tempts us, but overall it's free will that we use to decide how to react. We don't always have to react to the things that the devil is doing to us. And here's the thing, the interesting thing about it is, this speaks about the devil going to God and being like, I bet if I do this and I bet if I do that. Not the exact words, but, he won't worship you anymore. He won't believe in you anymore. But I don't think the devil always goes up to God and is like, hey, I'm going to go mess with this person. I bet they won't believe in you anymore when I mess with them. So the devil just, sees you or me out, and he's like, that person believes in God. I'm gonna go mess with them because I want to shake their faith. I want them to come to my side. And people sit there and they go, well, if somebody goes and decides to worship the devil, why would the devil punish them when they go to hell later? Well, that's the thing. Hell was not created for people. It was created for the devil and his demons. And the devil doesn't really have a say who goes and who doesn't. But he doesn't want to suffer alone. And people don't like the emphasis on the fact that they're suffering. Your body is made for destruction when you are in hell, which means it will just regenerate constantly while you're burning endlessly. But not only that, aside from the eternal damnation, aside from the lake of fire, aside from the punishment, aside from the gnashing of teeth, and there won't be any water, you're also separated from God. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. There's probably more than 2 reasons, but I think one is because if you chose to live your life separate from God, God is giving you your wish, he's giving you your want, he's giving you your choice. Here you go. You didn't want to know me when you had the chance. You chose your whole life to ignore me, never read a Bible, or if you did read the Bible, you ignored what it said. You didn't pray. You didn't reach out to me. You left what other people say and do, mean more to you than having a relationship with God. So you get to be separated from him because that's what you wanted. But also, I don't think he wants to see us suffer. I don't think he wants to see his children burning in hell. I don't think he wants to see us there. Because he did not make hell for humans. He made hell for the devil and his demons. And people don't like to hear that. They really don't. And I'm not perfect. I'm going to be honest. I'm not saying this to make anybody feel less than or seem like I'm on a high horse. I just think it's relevant. Anytime you're talking about God or the Bible, and people like to go, well, why would I want to believe in that? Because this, and this. And I've had people, reply back to comments of mine. And I'll listen to what they have to say, because I'm like, okay, maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's something I need to read. And I'll realize that there is context, and they're taking the context away 95% of the time. And I also dislike when people take 2 or 3 verses out of a chapter and use it to be what the entire chapter is about. Let's say there's 40 verses in a chapter, because people like to do this with certain chapters of Leviticus. And one of the chapters has 39, 40 verses, and they take 2 of those verses and go, well, this is this and this. Okay, but what do the other 38 verses say? What does the chapter of Leviticus before that say? What does the chapter of Leviticus after that say? And also, you got to remember that Leviticus was back when people were worshiping other gods and doing all these things, and it was a different time. But also wasn't that different from what's going on now. People don't think that they are falling into the same tropes that happened back then. And I know I'm getting away from Job a little bit, but I have a point, I promise. People don't like to compare themselves and what they're doing now to what people were doing back then that went against God. They don't like to talk about what it really means when it says, do not worship any other gods except for me. It's not just talking about things that claim to be a deity. It's talking about relationships with people. It's talking about anything in your life that separates you from God. Anything that you put before God. Sex, drugs, TV, music, movies, anything. Anything, your car, your spouse even, for some people. But there are people out there who are polytheistic and believe in multiple deities, but they also say they believe in God. You cannot believe in God and really, really believe in him and really worship him and still believe in all these other ones. Because people don't like to hear that those are demons. They will call you crazy when you say something is blatantly demonic when it is. Also, I don't understand it, because a lot of those things, what they teach and stuff, goes directly against. Somebody posted a video saying that the Bible is all a metaphor. It's all a metaphor, and this stands for this, and this stands for this. Or the Bible tells you to look upward so that you're not looking inward. Here's the thing I dislike about that. The Bible tells you to invite Jesus in to fix you from the inside out. Because you're not going to stop sinning. You're not going to stop cursing people. You're not going to stop doing bad things unless you fix your heart posture. Unless you clean what you feel and think and believe. You have to clean and change those things before you can change the outside. There is not a moment when I'm talking to God where I'm not looking at my own behavior and the things that I do and trying to figure out why I do them and how God can help me change. People who think that the Bible and God was invented by man and it's all about control, and I'm like, I don't feel controlled. When I am talking to God, I feel comforted. And you can believe what you want about my beliefs. I'm not going to argue with you. I will delete your comments. I will block you. I had somebody commenting weird things to me whose name was something Lucifer, and their page said something about recruiting people for a cult, basically. And I'm like, okay, we're done. And I blocked them from my page. Well, there's not a direct block setting. I haven't been able to find it anyway on YouTube. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do the most that I can to keep you off my page. So I would get notifications about comments, but I couldn't look at them. And after a while, the notifications stopped. So, YouTube, first of all, get on the block button. And second of all, this video is getting extremely long, so I'm going to go and post it. Thank you for watching. God bless. Have a wonderful, beautiful day.